Today in my hands I've got a Nivada Aquamar in black. This is a watch that's got a trick up its sleeve. It's got a dual personality, because if you have a look at that dial, all the lume plots are white with a nice orange accent at the end. However, with a flick of a button you can actually change this watch's personality. You can give it a more vintage faux patina sort of look. Now this is the first time I've ever seen a watch do something like this, and that's quite impressive, and the design of this watch looks exactly like the original model made back in 1967. And because that particular watch used tritium lume, when it patinaed, you got this sort of faux patina. So that's what they've done here. They've given you a new look of a watch, but they've also given you something that can replicate what the original version looks like today. And that's quite impressive. Now, after using this watch on the wrist for a week, it's been very good. It's been a pleasurable experience. However, there's a couple of little shortfalls which I do want to share with you in the course of this review. So without further ado, let's flip the camera and let's dive into this brand new Aquamar in black from Nivada. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, this is a very unique function. I've never seen anything like this. They've basically taken out the date wheel from this watch and replaced it with a roulette wheel. It's got two different types of lume, a faux patina style lume and a white lume. And that's how you're able to get this effect in a sandwich dial. So an interesting look and an interesting effect. Now that calendar disc that's been removed is printed thickly with dark orange lume as well as PMS 7401C Superluminova. Now, does it work? Yes, it does. And in some days when that date wheel does turn over, or that roulette wheel does turn over, you don't get a full white or a full orange. You might get a combination of the two. And I want to speak about that in my room for improvement section. There's a couple of areas which I think if they think this through, they might be able to improve this just that little bit more. Nonetheless, you saw the pop-up. Nivada has sponsored this video, so I will of course leave all the appropriate links in the description section. If this or any of their watches are of interest to you, by all means, feel free to check them out. And looking at the physical dimensions of this watch, it has a case diameter of 38 and a case height of 13mm. I measure a lug to lug of 45 and a lug width of 20. The crown is a 5.9mm signed screw down crown. The watch offers 200 meters of water resistance, and the total weight on the supplied bracelet sized to my 18cm wrist, I measure exactly 136 grams. Now this particular bracelet we've seen before from Nivada. It's a flat link bracelet with polished sides and a brush center. As you can see, it fits well on the wrist. There's a good taper from 20 down to 16mm at the clasp, and the balance between the watch head and bracelet has been more than sufficient to offer comfort on the wrist. Now looking closer at that bracelet, it does offer good articulation. It's got female end links as well as screw pins, and there's a swivel with a clasp that offers 6 micro adjustable holes. Now the gauge of steel on that clasp is quite good, however it does not offer toolless on the fly adjustment, so keep that in mind. Now turning this watch over, I think this case back is a step up from previous Nivada models that I've reviewed in the past. The detail and finishing on the gold center is absolutely beautiful. It's very clean and purposeful. Now hiding behind that case back is a Swiss-made stop rod P024. It's a hand-wound automatic, offers around 38 hours of power reserve with a beat rate of 4 Hz. And on this particular model, it's been running at plus 9 seconds per day on and off the wrist. It does fall within the range of the mover's specifications, however the tolerances could have been a little bit tighter here. Now looking closely at that crystal, you've got a box sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating on the underside. I've not really had any issues with this crystal throughout the day, however the AR coating does have a slight blue tint to it, which does come into play in certain lighting situations. Lastly, the bezel of this watch is a bi-directional friction fit bezel. It goes in both directions. It features a fully lumed ceramic insert, and the action of this bezel in both directions is extremely smooth. In fact, buttery smooth. Whether you turn it left, whether you turn it right, there's no hot spots. Where I've set it, it stayed in position, so that's been a real big surprise. Now unscrewing that crown and pulling it out to the first position, it allows you to adjust that roulette wheel. And as you can see, you've either got white or orange or even a combination of the two. So in a 24-hour cycle, as this watch goes through its motion, at 12 midnight, that whole date wheel or that roulette wheel will change and you'll get whatever you get. Whether it's white, whether it's orange, whether it's combo, that's what you're going to end up with. So it's a good surprise, but it would have been nice to be able to set that in one position, and I'll share more about that. Now the last thing I want to touch on about this watch before I get into my gripes or room for improvement is that lume. You'll notice that the lume glows green. Whether you use the orange lume on that dial or the white lume, the intensity seems to be the exact same on initial impressions. However, in my observation, the lume doesn't seem to last that long. The first thing that seems to go is that bezel, and then obviously the markers and handset. So as a functional lume, yes, it works really well initially, but as far as longevity is concerned, it's not going to really go the distance. So again, bear that in mind. Now put all that aside, what are my gripes and room for improvement of this watch? First and foremost, I want to touch about that lume, the lume inside the dial, because I like what they've done. I like that it's a party trick, that you get two different personalities out of this watch. That's actually really cool. However, you can't actually set a particular lume type and keep it. I'd like to set just white, just pure white lume, keep the watch white. You can't, because in 24 hours that's going to change. Now, therein lies a problem as well, because in 24 hours, when it does change, I don't know what it's going to change to. Whether it changes to half orange or half white, or a quarter orange and 3/4 white, or full orange, I don't know. So it's hit and miss depending on the gears and the cogs. And that's another issue, because think about this. It is a date wheel, and I don't see anywhere in the literature that... I think you basically got to treat it like a normal date. So you've got some safety areas, some danger zones that you should avoid from about 8 or 9 o'clock PM till about 3 AM. You shouldn't be changing that roulette wheel when the time is set in those areas, just like a normal dated watch. So bear that in mind. If you were to change this, let's say at 10 o'clock at night, and just muck around with it, you'd probably strip the gears. And that's something you want to avoid. So I'm putting that in my gripe section as an observation, but also it would have been nice to have a standardized lume. Like, I can pick white, stick to white. I can pick orange, stick to orange. You can't do that. So it's part of the trade-off of what the design is. Nonetheless, I like the fact that they've done what they've done. Next gripe for me is that crown. I think the crown is a little bit too small, coming in at 5.9 millimeters. It's usable, it's doable, but for my fingers, it's been a little bit fiddly. I would have loved to see something potentially a little bit broader. That's been my experience with this watch. Another observation I've noticed on this watch throughout the week, it has been a fingerprint magnet. The bracelet's quite highly polished on the ends, as well as the side of the case. It means you continue to cleaning it, but I don't think the build of the bracelet matches the build of this watch head. The watch head has been great. The bezel has been absolutely fantastic, but for a better term, the bracelet feels a little bit flimsy, a little bit not rattly or tinny, but it's just not at the same level as the watch head itself. It's an easy fix. You basically buy the watch on a rubber strap or a leather strap. There's obviously different options available for this watch. It just would have been nice if this bracelet was a little bit more heavy duty to match the build quality of that watch head. And speaking of that bracelet, you'll notice there's no toolless on the fly adjustable clasp. It's got 6 micro adjustments on that clasp. The clasp seems to be a good gauge. The steel itself is really solid, but I understand what Nivada is doing. They're harkening back to the vintage aesthetic, trying to keep it more old school. That's a good thing. I don't have a problem if the watch is relatively inexpensive. This watch comes in at $1,250 USD on the bracelet and $1,050 on any other strap. Now for me, that is definitely on the higher side. And that's one area which I think Nivada could do better. So hit me up in the comments, guys. Let me know what you think about this particular watch. The new Nivada Aquamar. There's 3 different colorways. It's been fun and very playful, albeit if Nivada can tweak 1 or 2 small areas in this watch, then I think they can escalate that idea of having 2 different types of looms and hitting it out of the ballpark as far as a dual personality watch. So thanks for watching. Continue to enjoy this hobby and one another, and we'll see you all in the next one.